All right, call the meeting to order. Let's start with roll call.
Wilson Wertz,
Here.
Tiffany Gant is absent tonight, Tony Bevel,
Here.
Dorian Weigel,
Here.
Lisa Patterson,
Here.
Richard Amici, and Lawrence. Thank you.
Okay, first thing is the approval of minutes. Anybody have any corrections?
Motion to accept the minutes is written.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Citizen comment?
Do you want citizen comments tonight?
All right, so on the business, first things chair, vice chair nominations. This is where someone else chooses to step up.
Thanks, so.
So you wanna switch places? Oh, not Lisa. Tiffany, she's not here,
Tiffany's not here, but
so we could nominate her.
she did say that she would be interested in remaining vice chair if nobody else wanted to. So.
Jeez.
Hey,
It could be the proverbial you're not at the meeting and get nominated.
yeah. Yeah, I'm fine doing it again, nobody else.
I think you're doing a great job.
I think you're doing an awesome job.
You know.
Sure. I won't deny it.
Okay.
We have to do something.
Motion.
You know, I'll move to nominate Jason for chair and Tiffany for vice chair.
Second.
I think.
Got it.
Anyone else want to step up for vice chair? We kind of just brushed over that, like. I'm not sure if we're eligible.
So.
I checked today, just in case.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I don't know if I can vote for that. Any opposed? You want her busy? Okay. June term expirations. Tiffany and Lisa. They got extended.
Yes, they both got extended and that went over to council for resolution, so that good stuff, so just wanted to let the committee know.
Okay.
Question, so with the committee turning into a board on July 1. Council doesn't have to re-vote on everyone that, you know, everyone who's current standing will just transition into the new structure of what this is renamed as.
So good update for you on that. So it sounds like council decided to keep it as the existing number of team members plus one person from city council. So as you know, I think some other boards have 9 on it. And the decision was to keep it at 7. So yeah, so 5 plus 2. And then I think there's some discussions in regards to if you two gents are gonna do double duty still or how that's gonna work, so.
I think what they had expressed to us is that we're welcome to hold this spot. Until there's someone available to replace us or until we choose to withdraw, so it's kind of like you're welcome while you want to be.
Right, they changed the wording to may instead of shall,
Right,
so, yeah, I'm happy to serve.
good. That's great, and then I think they were still working on which city council member was gonna be sitting in. I mean, it was leaning one way or, but you know, until I think they hammer that out, we'll just wait for that to play out. Just like to say on top of that, really happy that you gents are staying and the rest of the team is all staying. You guys have been great to work for in regards to the police department. And we were just talking about you today. All your ears must have been burning because we were discussing just the aspect of some of these things. I was talking with the chief about it and just telling him how much we appreciate each of you being here and doing it and the extra work. and your common sense approach to how you look at things in regards to what Jason and Joy and I all put out there as information for you guys to process. So just wanted to say thank you for staying on and doing it and being nominated again. And Tiffany, who's not here, for do it again as well. So thanks a lot to all of you. I'll just use this second to also introduce that we have Sergeant Corey Jench that's here as well today. He is not here for citizen, delivery here of information. He's not gonna use 4 minutes of time to talk, but Sergeant Jench just here to observe. We'll probably have a transitioning at some point in regards to my position, and so we're just kind of bringing Corey in to kind of start observing and getting a little familiar with what we all do.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks.
All right, so. First new traffic safety request is 25-013, requesting speed limit signs, extra speed enforcement or stop signs. Those two roads, I'm not sure how to say that first one,
Rolich.
Rolich. Due to speeding concerns.
So on this one, we were lucky in that, as you know, a lot of times a new complaint will come in or issue will come in. We'll do this reading and then we'll say, hey, we'll look and process it over the next coming month here and then report back. On this one, we can tell you we were able to get it at a timely way in which we were able to work on it for multiple weeks here to be able to assess it. So new item and we have results.
Oh, nice.
So we'll obviously let Officer Chris Pierce here do the explanation of what he and what our data is finding.
Regarding the speed, the urban SDK program we use showed an average of, please zoom back out a little bit. So the SDK program, it's kind of nice because on streets, it actually breaks down into segments on the street. So the average speed where the complaint came in at Rolich and Eldred per SDK showed 22 miles per hour. And then it slowed down to 19 as you round the curve here and kind of head deeper back into the neighborhood near the park. The SDK data is consistent with the visual observations that I made by spending time there, parking, monitoring via radar or LiDAR. I think this is another situation kind of like Dewey in the sense that there may be more of a perception issue rather than a speed issue. Just from the data that we looked at for SDK and then my analysis, I didn't see a heavy speeding problem through this neighborhood.
Similar layout of the road too.
Yeah, I mean, a little more room on, going down the strip here with the way cars park. To get to the corner, yeah, it kind of does kind of mirror Dewey in that sense that people just, I think, naturally tend to slow down when they hit a curve in the road, especially with cars and houses and that kind of stuff there. But all in all, just based off the computer data and then my observation, I'm not seeing a major speed problem here.
So that said, our police department's position on this one is that we're seeing it as unfounded. In regards to the speed aspects, not to say that the complaint doesn't have speeders that could be occurring on it from time to time, but it's not something that's shocking to conscience to the point that we would say that we would be doing, heightened enforcement on it or recommending the stop signs.
And there's already a speed sign somewhere on that road that says 25.
But it's residential, so.
Yeah, all
So
residential.
yeah.
Maybe not,
Okay.
since just all residential is all 20.
But that's not really a through road either. It looks like it just goes into a big neighborhood loop.
People do use it as a pass through from Edie. They come up.
Overlay from,
Bedstraw, sorry, I'm drawing a blank there. Bedstraw, and then they cut over here to Hanley, which then they can get, over to Elward or into the ridges if they don't want to get onto Copper Terrace. So This route, you got Hanley here, this route along Rollage. It does tend to see more traffic than one of the side streets to the main rail, so.
And then the area we're talking about from Eldred, that's kind of the straightest.
That's the
Leg of that.
greatest portion of the road where if you wanted to pick up speed, that's probably where you would want to do it.
Can I add a note to that, just for everybody's awareness? So that straight stretch right there, that's an unusual wide street as well, wider than normal of any of the other neighborhoods that we have. They have no parking on one side of that straight stretch. So when people come around the corner and they see this big opening, I could see where that could be that perception of, I got the straight shot, it's a wide street. Don't have to worry about other cars being parked on one side, so.
That's a good point. So one question I was gonna ask is if you guys recall any history about when that got posted, no parking, because my guess is it wasn't always that way.
It's been there, I actually live in that neighborhood, it's been there a long time.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy that they have no parking on that one wide street. And then up on Hanley where they do have the flashing light or, the speed reader where it's a narrow street. Yeah, no parking on both sides, so it's like, it's just interesting, but that no parking on that street has been there as long as I can remember.
And I can't remember, but though there's no parking zones get added, are they in city code as no parking or they're just signed?
Just signed, there's some locations in Old Town that are by code, by name, but I think those aren't exactly signed exactly for the code, but that's just a few streets.
Okay. I'd be interested in exploring, like getting rid of those signs and allowing parking. If the width allows it for fire code or unless there's another reason to not do it, but that'd be something I think. Is a low cost thing that might help some of that perception if people park there, or maybe nobody parks there anyways, even if you allowed it.
Run the cursor on where there's no parking.
So on the left side, as you're looking at the screen, the left side, that whole left side is no parking.
Yeah,
Pretty much the entire from the stop sign. On Hanley and then all the way down to Gillette where the other stop sign is. So the whole left side is no parking.
Yeah, and like no parking. But that's about it.
There are driveways and the side of the property, not the other, right?
I'm just trying to figure out if that's part of the land use approval as far as, it could be from fire life safety access. I don't know.
Yeah, even if it's.
I mean, that's usually when we start putting no parking on both or one side.
It's usually based on the width of the street. So
That,
this is a pretty wide street, even from the Google Maps, you can see it's. If you have parking on both sides, I think still pretty for.
I mean, Google Earth.
It's more than 3 lanes wide.
The other question I had was the SDK data. Have on the streets that we've done either the tubes or the radar data collection, have you looked at a comparison of similar metrics to see how?
I have not.
That'd be interesting
We have,
to
and
understand.
they've been similar.
They have been
So when we did that on a Mighty Key on Dewey, it was similar in nature there. And then, well, this one was similar in that it wasn't with tubes being similar, but we were still doing checks with officers. So when we did speed enforcement check on it, it was paralleling on our data.
So that is one of the actions that the citizen lists here is placing a speedometer to indicate to drivers their unsafe speed. Even if there isn't necessarily data that we need from it, I think they're suggesting just placing one there for a couple days to kind of remind drivers that this is residential and their speeds being monitored might help maybe kind of curb some behavior a little.
You're talking about the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer, the speed. So, I'm not saying that's necessarily gonna be impactful, but that's kind of, one of the things they're asking for is a possible option, and that might not be too big a deal for us to do, say, yeah, we can leave this here for a week and just kind of remind everyone. See. Just, that's something. But also mention, a stop sign. So I'm wondering whether are they implying there to put a stop sign on Roller to break that road in half, basically, or, cause I assume there's one on Eldred to stop for turning. But they want to make it an all-way stop now.
That's the way I read it.
There's one at Gillette already, which is pretty close by.
There's no reason, other than using a stop sign as a speed deterrent, there's no reason, no warrant to have a stop sign at that intersection, because it stopped before it and after it, and routine and stops too. Right?
I had another question on your SDK data. Does it give you more? More than average, like can you get 85th percentile or different, like are there different metrics you can pull out of it? Because average is not really used in engineering world as far as making decisions on traffic safety.
It can give, I think it was 90th percentile.
Okay, that's pretty close to it.
So.
I would check that one.
Great. And still that isn't showing.
So that's more a general question.
Does that mean 90% of the motorists are obeying the law? So,
The average would just mean that half are going 20-22. Half are, sorry, half are going below and half are going above, or that's your average, so.
It's saying that you could have a high flyer, but you could have low flyers, the average speed on it is 22.
Yeah. The 85th percentile speed that is used in engineering is just it's capturing most of the drivers. It's as opposed to just hitting the middle. So it would be a little bit higher number. Of, you know, if you have a small percentage of people going 50, it'll push that 85th percentile out.
Trying to get to the load right now to see what that number is.
So in regards to some of the questions that were put out there. Still, I think even at the 90th percentile, it still wouldn't shock the conscience for us as a police agency to be putting resource time onto that for speed enforcement. In regards to the speed trailer, we could easily do that just as, like I said, even though it's not showing a speeding problem there, we could definitely do that. To
Just have visibility to the public.
just to apply some of that, we put into the rotation of other places it goes. So we could definitely do that, for sure. The stop sign piece, like I said, we're not seeing anything here that shocks the conscience to say that it would need to have a break there, but Jason, thoughts?
Oh, I've been unlikely to be stop sign warrants, and unless somebody else feels that way, I think that would be a political warrant, I guess, would be the only warrant there. It's not that we don't have in Woodhaven, there's some additional place stop signs similar to this, but they likely don't meet warrants, so it's maybe years ago, somebody's using them to like break the road up as a traffic control device.
Well, Eldred and it's like Saragino below it that have stop signs onto Eldred already. Although above it at Eisner there isn't.
I was surprised when I drove it. I'm just looking at it and going out to check this out after the comments came in that there was even a stop sign on Gillette because of that. That slowed me down and kind of broke it up right there. And I was surprised that they were requesting a stop sign so close to that. I thought there wouldn't be a stop sign at Gillette, so being with that already there to see got like overkill.
No, I think we're both wrong. We get 85th and 95th percentile, and both are 24 miles an hour.
No.
2 miles an hour.
So this might be one of those situations that we seem to constantly find ourselves in where the perception of speed as a pedestrian. The vehicles are moving faster than they actually are. And there isn't necessarily anything that needs to specifically change. It's not what it's seeming like, you guys kind of agree?
Would agree with that assessment. I like the idea of putting it into the rotation for the trailer. So at least the people who live on that street and have that perception. Know that we're at least doing something and thinking about it, and talking about it. And whether data comes out from that sign being there for a couple of days, I think we're all gonna probably agree that it is a perception issue.
Get date, is the trailer?
We don't get data from
Oh,
it,
that'd be kind of-
believe anymore. It's toast on the data.
We only got data from the tubes. The tubes, that's the physical way to get data.
That or from our database, yeah.
Sounds like it's doing
Yeah.
pretty darn good job.
Very accurate. Yeah, I think the trailer coupled with, just regular, enforcement. You know, just making sure that it's a road that's driven down occasionally. Makes the most sense. Does anyone want to put down to a motion?
I would make a motion to put the trailer there into the rotation for 3 to 4 days or whatever the police deem appropriate, and continue enhanced enforcement through the area or regular enforcement through the area. Pardon me.
Regular.
I'd second that's good.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Lisa, went in. Hard for me to get through there.
Lisa,
Oh, yeah, sorry. I said aye to the approval.
Okay, so on the pending traffic safety request, starting with 25-003, request for street improvements at Main and Division. This is the lighting. I think this is the lighting you're waiting for.
Yeah, I got an update on the lighting. When we started the analysis, the acorn lights at that intersection were the old high pressure sodium. And it so happened PG had them on their schedule to swap out to the LED globes. So we had modeled it with the old lights, and so now we're remodeling it right now with the new brighter lights, and then they're gonna model it with a brighter overhead spotlights. That's there at the north side on the wood pole. And between those changes, we think that will bring it into compliance with the photometric. So I don't have the results today, but that's the update there, and that's all we were waiting for. So my gut says it'll work out, and it should be the illumination standards, and we'll be good.
Do you have any questions?
Does that mean we can close that out now, or do you have to wait for final results?
Wait for the final results. So at the next meeting or whatever, whenever the next meeting is.
Yeah. Questions? Okay, number 2025-005, request for parking on one side of the street at Cornerstone Lane.
This was the one that we closed it out in essence as unfounded. It's still open though. Jason, I think, was connecting with the person who submitted this one to us just to advise of the process. There's the neighborhood petition if they want.
Yeah, I looked into that, the petition and the process for all that, and it talked that it might be better just to read off the sections on there. And I don't advise they do that for this one. I'm still gonna connect with the property owner, but this is the one where it says to code section 10.12.010 authority to establish and implement traffic controls. There's a section in there, section E, that says public request for traffic control changes. And this is the process that Bob Galati has followed previously with Angie. And it spells out where to collect signatures from, you know, within 500 feet and percentages. I do not recommend that they do this. I think for future requests, if the traffic safety committee did feel like a change was warranted, that we might make a motion, or you might make a motion to have the property owner do this in addition to the recommendation, so it helps the city manager final decision, but yeah, I just wanted to cite the code section, and I will circle back to the property owner and advise that they do not do that, and just kind of discuss with them other situations very similar to Woodhaven for the parking, and we haven't removed or made any of those zones no parking, so I think you guys can close this out. Like,
I think if I remember what I was thinking, at least at the time, was they wanted no parking. Correct me if I got this wrong, but they wanted no parking. We said no action, leave it as it is. Cause it didn't make sense, but we didn't really, I didn't feel like we had a good gauge for the neighbor, all the neighbors, and like, it's such a small area that if everybody that could potentially use that area for parking, if none of them want it, then it'd be like, okay, well, maybe. And that's what that, going back to them and asking if they want to do a petition, I didn't know it was 500 feet, but like, for me personally, like if the 6 homes along that street, they all sign the petition, then I might be willing to, I guess, reconsider. At least that's what I was thinking. I also don't need to beat this one up forever, so I'm okay with just letting it go, but. That's what I thought, that we were just like basically closing it out, no action. When you get back to it, it's like, okay, we said no action. But if you can get all your neighbors on the same team, you know, feel free to bring it back up to us. Maybe that's the response to them is. We decided no action. But, you know, feel free to rally the neighbors.
do that, this one, I just don't want to set precedents for all the Woodhaven stuff, and then now I'm promoting stuff that may not result in change, I guess. I just don't want to send them on a. I think if we handle it this way, we need to respond to these the same so it's no different than Woodhaven when they wanted. You know, parking removed, like Pine North or south side of Pinehurst on Sunset, could be similar.
Yeah,
I'm don't over.
I see what you're saying.
I feel like I could reach out to them and discuss this with them and. Close it out that way. I just don't want to lead people down a process that they won't. Result in any change, I guess.
Jason, let's just say they went through this whole process and they got everyone's signature. Are you saying that the criteria is being satisfied? Are you saying that the city manager wouldn't be able to approve it, or you wouldn't be able to approve it? So tell me, because it sounds, okay, so Jason's identifying that there's a recourse for this person that's submitted. And the recourse is have your neighbors sign the petition saying that they're A-okay in regards to removing the parking. So what would be the next step in regards for them to do it? Or are you saying that it doesn't really go anywhere? I'm a little confused in regards to what you're saying.
It would go to the city manager and they would submit the petition and they'd have the 75% of their neighbors and.
That's 500, not just neighbors, 500.
500 feet.
That's the big thing, it's the 500 feet.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, but that's the criteria, so that if they are really passionate about removing and they feel like the whole community wants it removed as far as the parking, they would.
Yep, and they could enact change and
There's a course of action for them, if that's what they
But
want.
I don't know what the standards would be for the city manager to decide that the parking should be removed, I guess is what I'm saying. That,
regardless of that, it's no longer our issue either. You know, we've already determined that we don't feel there should be action, but if the neighborhood wants to come together, they're welcome to do that and take it that route. it's off our plate any way you look at it. So I kind of agree that we should just close it off and alert them to what options they have available at this point. What they do with that is up to them.
They're gonna need to canvass about 40, 50 houses, it looks like.
Many who don't even live in that neighborhood or who aren't impacted by it too, probably.
Yeah, they might drive through it, but
Richard makes a good point, right? Like you're basically saying, look, for this issue that's before this committee is saying, based on what we said, we don't see it being founded as a city to have parking removed. So we're asking for you to vote upon what this committee does to make that decision. And Richard, what you're saying is if they don't like that decision, they have another process they could go through. To see if that
all that.
supersedes us. Right? I think that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but the committee decision right now is do you want the parking removed or not? That's really the motion that's on the table, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought they decided already.
Yeah.
Everybody did.
we've only left it on the table just to have the loop closed on understanding what they were gonna, what, if they wanted to bring it, make it a bigger issue.
So really, that was, we should have closed it out. We should have meeting ago.
Right.
Because if they do want to run with it, again, it has nothing to do with us anymore. We've done our duty. So I'll go ahead and move to say we permanently close this one and the city engineer can present additional options to the complaint.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's very quiet.
We talked about all last meeting.
25-008 requesting extra speed enforcement on Brookman between Middleton and Mine Hill. This one was pending some county interaction.
Yeah, we've reached out to them, they haven't gotten a response on what exactly we're doing, but they're doing a study, I don't know if there's tubes out there, but they're collecting data. We don't have an official response on what their study entails. But from my perspective, it might help to have the TSC here. Make a motion for the city to reach out to them and request maybe a few things at some point in time, it doesn't have to be this meeting, but, ask them about changing the speed. Potentially, or those stop signs, or this is one of the public comments we've gotten, and that might help. Just gonna ask them what you think questions. To the county, but yeah, it's county jurisdiction and. We're pushing for, some interim changes, but I don't really have, I can't say what, we can't make the county. Show up to the meeting and speak here now, so. Yeah. I don't know how you guys want to handle it. I don't think. There's anything that we can do specifically to the committee. Yeah, if it's a lingering concern.
Are you saying it would be helpful for you in your interactions with the county if we had specific questions to ask them? Yeah.
I don't know, maybe specific questions. I think it's more like, this is not, as Jason just said, this is not ours. This is county. So this would be, come back when we were discussing the scope of this team. And this would be one where it's, you guys are recommending that we, the city, submit a letter to the county to assess this and review it and align the speeds and basically what's in the complaint. Basically, the complainant's complaint with us backing it, saying we think county, you should look at it.
The development that's going on, I think what they're doing, small developments that are going on right now. And those are Sherwood developments, right?
Yeah.
So it is our problem, what we have to deal with.
Those are problems for enforcement, but not owning the roads, we can't restrike them. Or add, speed signs or whatnot.
Yeah, because Tony, well, the developments are ours. The complaint, which is the main road of, but is not. It's counties.
3 different jurisdictions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that would be, if I was a resident in there, that would be what I would want to align to where, can we just get one posted speed for, you know, everybody can agree on? And I don't know if that's something we can do as a board without the county being involved.
It's something that you guys can recommend that we draft a letter from the city to go to county to say that, while this is not our kettle to deal with here, the committee believes that it needs to be assessed to have things aligned for speed and other things that were in the complaint.
So for Brookman, I mean, it's a pretty undulating road, so it has to be looked at.
It would take major construction at some point.
I was gonna say that sounded like a pretty good motion, but you can't make it.
To do that, I'll give you the badge if you want it. The gun.
So.
Can I take you up on
That's kind of a.
Trade license for days, I don't think that.
So if I was to make a motion that ask the city to draft a letter to the county asking for a further detailed assessment of the road, speed and jurisdiction of Brookman. Is that enough? Would that cover enough? What we wanted to do? So my motion stands to draft a letter to the county requesting more assessment of jurisdiction, speed and road of Brookman Road. And could stop there.
Sure. Good job. Okay, any discussion?
I know last time we also mentioned, that we like to continue SPD enforcement of that road, so I just wanted to tack that on, then there. I will continue SPD enforcement in the meantime.
Read, amend my motion to include enforcement.
So if it's a county road, Sherwood does the enforcement?
So
A little piece of it.
we have little sections.
In front of the development.
Now, keep in mind, we can do enforcement anywhere in the state of Oregon. When we talk about jurisdiction for us, we talk about our city's jurisdiction, and what it comes down to is venue for a court. So, for example, anything that's included in the city limits of Sherwood, I can cite them into our municipal court. Whereas if I were to stop somebody that's violating the speed limit outside of our city limits, then I have to cite them into the county's court. So, my point being is if we're out there enforcing, we're not limited to just enforcing the little section of road we have. If we see somebody speeding outside of our section, we can still do something about it.
Am I good? I could add.
I'll also that amended motion.
Okay,
I don't know if neither of you guys seconded that. I wanted to see Lawrence try to craft it a third time.
not here for your entertainment. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, sorry, any opposed? Okay. Just to clarify, so. Okay, next one's 25-009, speeding concerns on Washington and Sankey by the middle school.
This one was the one that last month when we met, as a refresher, we were seeing the data on the road was showing. January. Well, I was gonna say average speed, but I mean, speed would say 95%. But it was showing speeds were excessive there, and then officers doing assessments there at all shifts. We were doing assessments during the day, and early evening, late evening. We were seeing speeds also, so we're bad there. So data and officer assessment of that was, yeah, there was a problem. And at the last meeting, we said, let's give it a month of us working enforcement on that to try to see if we can get it into better compliance. And so I'll hand it off to Chris and Rick to fill me in on how that went.
There's a problem, still it's a problem. After our last meeting, we ended on Thursday. I wasn't able to make it out there Friday morning, but the following week, when my work week started on Wednesday, I spent a good portion of each of my shifts, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, in the school zone during school hours, primarily around drop-off times, 8-ish to 8:30-ish. In the first 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I stopped and cited 22 drivers for doing 31 over. In a half an hour, in 3 days, a half-hour span over 3 days.
Doing how much?
31 and 20. Multiple people were stopped for between 8 and 10 over. Some of those were given warnings. I didn't cite everybody I stopped, but I just kept a little note of the violations that I did cite. So over the last month, I think it's been, that was the first 3 days. Myself and then my sergeant on my side of the week, we went out there again today and worked it this morning to see if what we had been doing the past few weeks had made a difference. And here I am this morning again, getting 31s to 34s through the 20s.
And we're seeing the same thing with the other shifts, but yours isn't working as well. Last meeting, you also had asked us to do a couple additional things. One was speed trailer, that was put on the rotation to get it out there. And then the other was communicate with the school, just in regards to the messaging aspect of that. So that was passed on to our SROs to get that messaging out to school staff and into newsletters and stuff. So we put that stuff into motion. End of the day, just as Chris said, we're not seeing improvement to where I think it's, in a good spot yet. We'd like to have this go for potentially another month to see if we can get this in compliance, as well. Obviously, that's something you guys can decide to let us know, but at this point, we want to just see if we can cook this a little more and get this right before we start looking to more expensive solutions, i.e., flashing signs with speeds, et cetera, that are costly, right? So we want to see if we can get it into compliance with the enforcement, as opposed to spending all your good money in regards to ag. If I come back to you in a month from now, our recommendation would be that if we can't get into compliance at that point, we'd be looking at you probably with a recommendation of saying, yeah, we need to work to devices and tech to be able to start to give alerts to people, et cetera.
Do you know where our trailer sits now and how far away?
I don't know where it is currently.
What's the rotation time? I think we decide, will it get there before? Well, the reason I ask is because I'm interested to see whether the speeds will go down or speeds will go up when school gets up.
Here's the interesting thing too, when I've been working the school zone, you got the LDS church here, the field, and then the middle school. I'm not trying to hide and pick people off. Yeah. I don't know how many of you drive down this road in the morning, and if you see me, I'm in my patrol car, literally parked right here in the middle of the road. As plainly visible as possible. That's what right by me, all morning long. And I'm like, I'm right here, guys. Why am I not getting your attention in the school zone with children walking around? Was my.
The other thing too, to go, Lawrence, to your point too, is that while Chris is talking about school zone time there, because that's his shift when he's working during that time. Like you said, we're seeing that problem outside of the school hours, right? When that goes back up to 25, we're still seeing speeds where it's like, this isn't. So,
Yeah, it's not limited to just the schools.
Yeah, so we feel that even though school's gonna be done in 3 weeks, it doesn't matter, like the problem is there outside the school zone. Yeah.
And would you classify this as like one of the main ongoing speed problems in the city limits?
In my opinion, for what I do, yeah, there's a couple streets that it's just like. One street in particular, like Oregon Street near Hall, going down from Old Town down to the roundabout. I've been working that for 10 years and I haven't seen a change this entire time. Yeah. It's 25 and the average speed I stop is 42. Jeez.
And then we know the Roy Rogers issues that we're dealing with, and get that under, get that suppressed as well. So this was a really good complaint that came in from the citizen, right? Because while we know that there's speeding that occurs on this road or lots of other roads, it was a good complaint because it brought us to this, right? The purpose of this committee to kind of really look and analyze it and say, no, this is really a high flyer, right? This is a problem.
Did you have duplicate offenders? Or like repeat visitors?
There's been a few. There was one where we had a conversation two mornings in a row. I saw him today and he was white knuckling his wheel and he wouldn't even make eye contact with them.
Yeah,
So
with his phone too.
So
That's-
we,
One was speed.
Yeah.
sure,
No, Jason can speak to this, but just for emergency vehicles on the road.
emergency vehicles get around the city anyway, so.
They need to be able to straddle those, emergency vehicle friendly speed bumps. If that came up as a recommendation, that I would make a motion for continued enforcement.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to, I think that was our last one.
Oh,
Yeah. Anything, and then we'll just let it sit for another month and then
You guys
see
think,
what you guys say next time.
you guys think it would help if we just put the signal and flash 24 hours a day? There's not enough traffic there to, might slow people down if it's just flashing red all the time.
Oh, at the school.
At the school traffic signal, I mean, flash is a safe condition. That might slow people down if they see flashing red lights all the time. Just a thought.
They can always stop.
Like I said, let us try to do enforcement first here for another month and then let's resort to, at the end of that, what tech changes and things look like. Would be our recommendation.
And what I see when I'm sitting out there is it's both directions coming to and from the roundabout. People do slow down near the light because that's the primary cross route there. I mean, there are a lot of kids that cross over here near Smith. But once they get past this intersection, if they're heading towards the roundabout, they get through. I watch them on my radar. It's, if the light's green, they'll come through at 20, 21. 29, 30, 33, and they're right by them.
Okay, any other questions or comments
I
before?
just wanted to say, I feel like the SRO outreach and the school outreach might not be impactful if this is something that even happens outside school hours. So it might be better to leave it open a couple months and maybe see how June's and July's data looks by the time we have our July meeting. Just to see the no school traffic, if it's still a continuing issue, that'll help us make a decision if signage or other tech or whatnot needs to go into.
Yeah, we'll keep doing things.
Yeah, so maybe we just plan on not really needing to discuss it much next week, other than a quick or next month, or a quick update, knowing it's gonna linger past that.
I am curious myself to see what it looks like come summertime when there's not school, because it's still, even though there's not school traffic here. People tend to use Meineke if they're coming up from like the Yandell County area to get to Old Town. They'll to avoid going up Sherwood Boulevard, they'll cut through, come up the roundabout, and then use this as a gateway to get down into Old Town. So there's, with all the stuff we got going on all of a sudden along in Old Town, it's still gonna be.
Yeah, makes sense, but
Okay.
All right, switch loop pending.
So the next one is speeding concern at First Street. Park Street intersection, request stop sign. I think this one was just printing the stop sign.
Yeah, notices are going out this week, 15-day period, and then the stop sign will be installed by our next week. Take off that.
All right, so next on the agenda is committee or staff comments on the agenda.
I gave my staff comment earlier, so again, good job, and thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
I have one. So earlier this month, May 7th, we held Bike and Roll School Day at Middleton Elementary. So that was very successful. And that's part of the encouragement component of Safe Routes to School. So we're working with the school district to see if we can maybe increase participation at other elementary schools, because they have a walking school day usually in October, and then Bike and Move school day usually in May. So we'll see as we move forward with that partnership with the school district. Then in regards to the transportation system plan update, the Citizen Advisory Committee members were appointed by City Council on May 6th. So thank you, Jason and Lisa, in regards to filling through those positions. Our first meeting is going to be pushed back a little bit to late July or early August, because we want the first meeting not just an introduction to what a TSP update is, but have some substance in regards to data from the consultant. So it could be more of a meaningful meeting. So a new doodle poll will be sent out probably earlier next week. Thank you.
I had a chance last week to walk on the new Sherwood Head Bridge. That's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be just awesome to cross. I've put back and forth across 99. But speaking with the electricians that are installing, I was there actually officially to talk about the services that feed the lighting for the bridge and the street lighting along in front of the high school. So what they're installing, that bridge is gonna be such a sight in the night when it's all done. But just walking over it, it's so much better. I'm gonna feel a lot better about all the kids being able to use that to get to school every morning, or it ramps down right into the high school. That's gonna be great. I'm not sure what they're gonna do with the signal, if they're actually gonna close the sidewalks or the crosswalks at the signal. But that's kind of my hope, is that they do that, so it makes all the kids use the bridge to get to the school, and everyone really.
Yeah, good idea.
But regardless, it's gonna be great. That was really cool to get up there and see, and the cars are just going by underneath and feel, even under construction, you feel totally safe. Like, it's just great. So really happy for this.
Question, Dorian, just with your experience, if they were to get rid of the actual crosswalks on the road there, would that increase the green light time for vehicles?
Absolutely. The signal would not need to come out of any kind of coordinated pattern if it doesn't have to serve a really long, like 35-second don't walk to get people across. So yeah, more traffic would certainly move through there. The signal could afford to be snappier, especially serving Sunset and Elbert as soon as traffic was done. Because sometimes, traffic is done and there's still don't walk waiting for another 15 seconds before it can actually turn and go back to 99.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because it seems like too, the green light traffic for going across 99, the Sunset or Sunset back to Elbert is so short.
Yeah,
So.
Has that request been submitted to ODOT?
I don't know.
No, we're gonna ask them, but I don't think they can give us the answer. Because the bridge is done, and then we might have there's no stairs, so that could become an issue with direct access, proximity. And at the least, the north crosswalk hopefully can get closed. That's because it's so far away from the gravel lane, it's gonna be pushed forward, but I don't know about the other one on the south side. Just because of the other users leading the crosswalk. We're asking, it keeps coming up, so.
I'd be surprised, they've gone. Very
And with
far side of not closing any of them. Or opening ones that were closed before, it's a pretty hard bar to pass to get the crosswalk closed.
Yeah.
Well, at the very least, hopefully, the usage on the crosswalk would be diminished greatly, that people would just be using the bridge because it's easier. And it's a heck of a view anyways, and it'll drop you right in front of the high school. So. That's what I got about.
Last time it's opening again in time for the next school year, is that kind of?
I think that's the idea.
Fall, of this year is what we're
A little.
advertising the website and keeping an eye on how we can get done over the next few months. But the idea has always been to get it open to the graphic school and then finish it, you know, the punch list repairs, so whatever's left over in the fall, so.
So everything's going according to plan with the bridge.
So far, yeah, the others have been very cooperative and going into summer, so hopefully it continues to stay clear out and no weather delays, which is looking good, so far, things are going very well.
Aiken Electric's solid shop, they typically do really good work for the county. I have no doubt they're gonna do good work on this bridge too. So. Should be in good shape there.
I was curious if there was any update on the Timbrel project, Sunset.
Yeah, we're out for bid on that right now.
Okay.
Sunset Terminal pedestrian hybrid beacon, and that goes to council on June. Second meeting, June 17th, so we'll have a staff report and we'll kind of give you background on that, kind of shadow in some of the additional improvements that will go on as, you know, the Brooklyn grows, but.
So it's not just the typical RFP, the rectangular. It's a different system, right?
That's a full-on signal, pedestrian signal there.
Oh,
Where they increased it as far as.
Still a
Hybrid beacon.
okay.
Is that like what they have by Walmart? Is that, you push the button?
No, that's an RFP, this is kind of Tigard High School has one, it just goes, there's three to.
That's a hook.
It's hawk, but
Yeah, that's called
there's
a
a
signal.
pedestrian signal is a little bit different where it goes and it shuts down for red lights, basically. Pedestrian hybrid beacon is not what they're calling the hawk where.
They have, so that you have the flashing yellow and then two reds above it, and they go solid red. And then when the don't walk comes up, the reds start wigwagging until the don't walk finishes, and then the signal goes dark again. Is that what we're,
No, we're,
because that's a 3-section,
pedestrian hybrid beacon, what we're
Okay.
calling it, so.
but it's it's like 2 on top and 1 in the bottom.
So that'll actually shut down.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's a red signal.
When people are using the crosswalk.
Yeah, I don't really know what the difference in the systems.
So the goal for that, those improvements are gonna be completed before the school start, the new school year start. So we can try to get it done during the summer.
just a suggestion would be to do a pretty significant public education campaign, because no one's gonna know what those are. At least, I mean, I shouldn't say that, that's not fair, but they're just not around very many places, so a lot of people have not seen those.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because I know there's one like that in Beaverton with the two flashing reds that turn solid, and then they go back to flashing, and at that point in my mind, I'm like, this is a stop sign. If the pedestrians are 2 lines away, I can drive through it. But then there's the car next to me isn't driving. And I start second guessing myself, and so, yeah, it would make sense, it's a new type of signal in Sherwood, there should be some sort of public education about proper interpretation of it.
Social media campaign.
Yeah.
Pedestrian hybrid, the same thing.
There's a few different ways of programming that, but the ones that we have in the county. They go solid and they would wag Where you don't walk them all,
Yeah, all, there's a green way,
like starts flashing yellow, then it is solid yellow for a second, and then it goes to two reds. And that's when
Yeah.
everybody stops. For something was at a signal head that was green all the time, and when somebody wanted to cross, it went red, just like in front of the Sherwood Elementary. But the warrants are lower for a hybrid pedestrian signal than they are for, because that's you're into an actual traffic signal then, and warrants are higher typically to meet that, from what I understand. Than a hybrid
Yeah,
pedestrian.
that's why we're putting this in, is that it will meet signal warrants, when
Right.
Brickman triggers that, so.
Will it
It's gonna
be,
go to a signal.
will it be visible from Timbrel? The side street?
You don't, you typically don't need to have it, it's just for the main line, these ones just. You don't do it on
There
the
won't
side
be any,
streets.
so all those stop.
But if you're on Timbrel and you turn right, and
We'll be stuck, yeah, we'll be stuck.
cause you'll see the beacon, you'll see the light on. Right there.
Cause you're talking about coming off
If you're
Timberlake.
turning right, will you see the signal to know that it's in a red state?
Well, you better, I can't tell you on the plans, but.
Is the signal gonna be on the west side of Timbrel or the east side? I think that's what I asked, because on the east side. you can
So-
see it.
Arm on that northeast side, and there's gonna be one going across the other lane. So if we have to add a signal head when you're coming down Timbrel, then we'll do that, but, you know. I really would have liked to pursue just putting in the whole signal. But. You know, have the additional lane on Timberl and get the turn lane out of there, so that would have,
Yeah.
would have jumped the price up to where we couldn't have done it, so I've got an idea to shadow it all in to make it. Convert it and take the hawk heads off of it and turn it into a full traffic signal, but it just takes. That'll be in the TSP for a developer to do, but those are good points with the hawk system and. The wig wag thing, the yellow, I don't really know if I'm. Big fan of that, but I like just the green and you're shutting the intersection down and.
Is the Hawk something that council, some people from council pushed?
Yeah, no, I don't know if we call it the term hawk system.
Well, whatever's going in.
Pedestrian hybrid, they want a pedestrian signal and that, the reason you do this is, you know, this signal for the traffic signal warrants for the full. Traffic signal, so then this is what meets the warrants.
Which, yeah, currently with these, there are no greens in them, you can't, there's no configuration of the greens for these, but. The nice thing is the infrastructure's all there, so it's literally just a matter of swapping heads out, changing the controller timing, and you have a signal. For that part, it's very simple. If it ever meets signal warrants and, but you know, you can change it to having regular signal heads.
So in addition to the signal, we are gonna fix the crossing. So that it's more straight than in this angular situation that it currently is. Fix the curb,
I was gonna
Right.
ask, is that
Is it-
curb cutout needs to be?
yeah, like ADA compliance.
Oh, yeah, we're rebuilding all the ADA ramps and the crosswalk's gonna go further southeast, so it's gonna be on we're on the other side of the fire hydrant. So it's gonna go straight across the road.
Fire hydrant doesn't have to get moved.
Luckily, no, we're just gonna locate this on, it's just a perfect spot for us to basically hop the whole crosswalk over to the other side.
We have one, basically it's exact configuration, on 170th in Aloha Beaverton area. And it's the same thing where it's right at a street coming in a T to 170th, which is an even bigger road than this. At that point, there are 4 lanes or 2 lanes in each direction in a center. And so far it's working pretty well. We're not seeing any issues with it. Everyone was a little concerned about having a road coming into a stop sign with a hybrid pedestrian beacon straddling it, but it seems to be working okay.
Which is what Jason was saying.
Yeah,
On that.
right. And that's at 170th is probably 30 feet wider than Sunset here. It's pretty large.
I have a question. So when you come into that kind of a situation, you have the stop sign and then you obey the stop sign, that's the,
Yeah, your primary focus is stop sign and then making sure you look for pedestrians. And you will see it if there's pedestrians crossing and the beacon is on. Unless you're completely not paying attention. But you'll see people crossing the road and you obviously need to wait for those. And the rest of the time, the signal is off and traffic is free to go, whatever the speed limit is. So then it's a matter of being able to get out in an opening to turn left, or turn right as traffic allows.
I found a. Trying to show this yellow,
Yep.
prepare to stop, red, solid.
Then the wigwag.
The wigwag is the one I'm hung up on, just from a.
Like a,
Flashing red.
Yeah,
if it's
bringing a lot of confusion.
It does. It seems to be one of the only other way to do it is to just keep it dual red, basically all the time from the walk through the don't walk until the don't walk is done, and then they just go dark. And you just hold them.
Better than throwing it.
Way.
I think people would be really confused by the flashing.
And they definitely get that way. We see it.
Yeah.
If it's high, we see
All
it.
red and then just dark.
That would,
The best.
that'll have to be a conversation though between the city of Sherwood and the county traffic engineers, I think. So, but I would tend to agree with you, but I'm just signal tech.
Okay. Sorry, that was a.
Rabbit hole.
Anybody else have any? Jump in there. Okay, that's it, we'll adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was trying to get, needed, like, no. No, I'm warned. I want to know. So we're gonna do this signal and what are we doing? I found a way to kind of justify it with